we have taken a look at the Sega Master System and, more importantly, the Sega Genesis, a system that placed Sega at the tip of the tongue of every video game player in the early 1990s. With Super Nintendo becoming more successful, Sega decided to push the envelope by releasing the Sega CD. RetroWare TV continues to take a look at the Sega console releases in North America. Originally released in America as a system add-on that fit right underneath the Genesis, with a front-loading mechanized tray, this system came out in 1992 and was released for $300. It was released as a direct competitor to TurboGrafx 16's CD-ROM attachment as well as the Turbo Duo, but in reality it was an effort to claim superiority over the Super Nintendo in the United States. The system's operating BIOS and startup screen ran version 1.10 when it was released in 1992, a slight upgrade to the Japanese counterpart, which had the 1.0 version. Soon Sega released the top-loading Sega CD to go along with their newly redesigned Genesis 2. The BIOS here was upgraded to 2.0 and soon upgraded to 2.11. The Sega CD was also released in the States as an additional module add-on for the Pioneer Laser Active system. This system used the earliest BIOS released in the United States, version 1.02. The Sega CD had limited success due to the marketing focus on choppy, full-motion video games like the infamous Night Trap and Sewer Shark. With slow load times, a limited on-screen color palette, when compared to the Super Nintendo, and only a handful of truly outstanding titles, the Sega CD had only limited success in all of the markets it was introduced to. The Genesis and Sega CD were also released in two rarely seen formats as well.
Stay cool! Don't let them freak you out!
The JVC Wonder Mega, or the XI as it was called in the US, was a combo unit that housed both a cartridge input and the CD drive. But my favorite and arguably the greatest piece of Sega hardware during this generation of consoles, the Sega CD-X, a compact Discman-style version of the Genesis and Sega CD, which ran the most up-to-date BIOS version, version 2.21. This small wonder was released in limited quantities due to its high price, and it's still expensive today, even without its original packaging. Sega also released a couple handheld units. These are the only handheld units the company ever released. The first was the Game Gear, basically a portable Master System that ate batteries as it tried to topple the throne held by Nintendo's Game Boy. While Game Gear was a better seller than the Atari Lynx and the Turbo Express, there was no stopping the Nintendo Game Boy. Sega eventually released an even better idea, the Sega Nomad, a system that played the entire Genesis catalog in portable form. However, because of its late release, it never truly sold very well. One final addition to the Sega Genesis was the Sega 32X. In an effort to bridge the gap to the Sega Saturn, the 32X 32-bit system attachment was released, allowing for a whole new selection of 32-bit Genesis and Sega CD games to be played. The system was clunky in addition to the Genesis, and it never really took off, seeing that the North American marketing push was moved towards the next generation of Sega consoles. Even the rumored 32X standalone, the Neptune prototype, was rumored for quite a while, but before that could even reach a reality, something bigger was about to arrive. Welcome to the next level. The Sega Saturn. With a price tag of $400, the first standalone 32-bit system was released in 1995 in the United States. The Saturn had two North American versions, the original thin, oval-buttoned version and the round-buttoned version that was released a little bit later. Ironically, the second version, the one with the round buttons, is actually the system that's easier to mod, allowing for playing backup titles. The Saturn was no match for the soon-to-be-released Nintendo 64 and Sony PlayStation, both which had dedicated 3D processing power, a capability that the Saturn lacked. In Japan, the Saturn had a much more successful lifespan and did quite well in comparison to the N64 and PSX. Regardless of that, in America, 3D was the new king. The Saturn and Sega were about to take a long hiatus and begin a new life. In 1999, Sega released the Dreamcast in the US, one of the most successful launches in the history of console gaming. This was easily the greatest system ever released by Sega. It felt different, it looked different, and it was the first true 128-bit system. It was smooth, breathtaking, and it boasted an amazing array of software titles right from the launch. The Dreamcast was released on 9/9/99, and it proved to be an innovator in the realm of online gaming. It also ported arcade hits that were almost completely authentic. Sega released many different versions in Japan, but over here we had the regular gray version and the black Sega Sports version. While revolutionary and a true gamer system, as well as an incredible step in the right direction for Sega as a company, it sadly suffered an early death to the hands of the PlayStation 2 with its stronger capabilities, backwards compatibility, DVD drive, and the loyalty of the Sony brand. While the Dreamcast initially sold well, the PS2 sold even better. While it was competitive for a while, once Sony caught its stride and released more games, it was all over, and Sega was forced to leave the console market forever. Now, many people will argue that Sega stopped creating consoles because they simply lost to the hand of Sony and Nintendo, but in reality, Sega was spread so thin over those years. At one time, Sega was supporting the Master System, Genesis, Sega CD, 32X, Game Gear, Nomad, and the Saturn all simultaneously. Sega is the story of a company defeated by itself. Sega's hardware ventures suffered the failure of a bad business model. They learned the lesson that you can't successfully support multiple areas simultaneously and still expect to remain on top. Sega's decision to focus purely on games was actually one of the most successful moves the company has ever made. Along with the consistent arcade releases in Japan and in the US, Sega has proven to be highly lucrative in the third-party software business. All these years later, Sega continues to be a force in the world of gaming. While the games continue, there will always be a place in the hearts of gamers when thinking back on the Sega systems. So in this modern era of Sony and Microsoft, I will always be a Nintendo and Sega guy. That wraps up the first episode of our second season of RetroWare TV. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in last season as well. Stay tuned because we're going to have a lot more episodes coming.
Be sure to check back at RetroWareTV.com in the next few weeks. You'll see some pretty cool updates there. And until next time, guys.
Take it easy.